Kelly Link is one of the most important, if not the most important, short story writer in the fantasy and science fiction genres working today. Pretty Monsters is her first mainstream big publication collection. Her third collection of short stories. She has been primarily a short story writer, five collections of classic stories before she published her first novel only about 2 years ago. And um, and the short story genre is central to the kind of 20th century history of both science fiction and fantasy publishing as a genre. The genres kind of begin as commercial ideas in pulp magazines. So the short story is the place where a lot of ideas kind of gestate and ferment, and it's the place where new writers ferment. And Link combines the skills of a fantasy writer with the skills of a literary short story writer, the prose, the structure. Okay. You can talk about genre as something that includes a mystery. A mystery novel, a mystery is a story where someone tries to solve a crime. A fantasy is a story with fairies, dragons, what have you in it. Science fiction has like the spaceships and rocket ships. You can do it by including manifest content, or you can talk about genre in terms of story structure. So a mystery novel is like where something solves a crime, but it is also a form of organizing the story where the solution of the crime is kind of what brings the story to a close. It's organized around figuring out who done it and where, why, and how. And once we know that, we're very close to the end of the story. You could have a story with mysteries and killers where no one's solving it. There's no competent detective. You could do that. Fantasy is a genre where anything can happen because there's magic, etc. Generic fantasy is often a genre in which only like eight things can happen. Like in different disguises, we can do this, we can do this, we can do a number of tropes and just keep remixing them. Link certainly knows her tropes. So sometimes fantasy is something is set in a world where anything can happen, but in as a story, not many things can happen. That's always a same number of like kind of core story plots. That is not how Link rolls at all. In a Link story, anything could happen because she has all the liberty of a fantasy author, physics, schmizics, but also and the kind of dream logic that enables, and she has the kind of indirection irresolution of the fantasy of the I'm sorry of the literary short story. This is someone with a MacArthur Genius Grant. This someone is someone who got an MFA in fiction writing in the 1990s when very few MFA programs were hospitable to genre fiction in almost any form. Ask me how I know. The literary short story doesn't work usually by simple plot closure. In fact, literary magazines tend to be allergic to simple plot closure. So Link is using fantasy to open up a kind of all the dreamlike possibilities, and because she's using the basic story building blocks of a literary short story, the way you end it isn't a plot resolution. It is not I found the MacGuffin. I got the gold. I beat the level boss. I made a successful proposal of marriage. I avenged my father's death. None of that. None of that. Things happen. Things happen. There's often an epiphany. Someone's looking around. There are moments of irresolution that it's kind of like it's or about internal movement inside the character. So things are open. You will notice that Link, many of the stories in Pretty Monsters feature young adults, teenagers, sometimes children, as in the classic. Sorry, I'm blanking on titles. As in the very classic The Specialist Hat. extremely scary story. Horror is also part of what Link does. Look at just the opening story. We have young characters, though we are not either patronizing them or simplifying. And it's actually not young characters tend, as young readers tend to imagine them. There is there is one of Link's skills, and she has many, is that she can imagine younger people as they were from their own perspective without losing her adult sense of them. There's an implied author here, to use Wayne C. Booth's phrase, who knows better than these narrators, who knows better than Jeremy Mars, who knows better than the poor kid, what's his name, Brant? The poor kid, Miles, who's trying to dig up the poems from his dead girlfriend's grave, Miles, right? Who knows better than the primary heroine of the title story of Pretty Monsters, but is also not patronizing those characters. A lot of young people making bad mistakes. This collection is kind of a semi best of. It has a bunch of new stories and a bunch of stories from her previous two collections, which were self-published. A quick note: if you're thinking of self-publishing, the way Link has done it with her Shiny Awards and her Nebulas and her Tiptree Award, which is now called something else, and her World Fantasy Awards, that is the prestige way to go. Link begins her career largely but not solely self-publishing, but she's incredibly connected with other editors. She is herself also the co-editor of a small fantasy zine, Lady Churchill's Rosebud Wristlet. This book, which is her move into kind of big time publishing with a big time publisher, reprints some of the greatest hits from the two earlier collections and some brand new ones. Magic for Beginners, The Specialist Hat are from the previous two collections, but The Wizards of Purple, The Wrong Grave, and the the Maddening Pretty Monsters are all new. Link is one of those people who you can learn a lot just by reading one paragraph. Keep If you can read the same paragraph over and over, and you will keep seeing new things. It's a Link story. Anything can happen, and probably it's gonna. Hold on tight.